The specifics of gravitation emergence, discussion with Oris, PhD in molecular physics. You talk about leptons, about electric field, but where are they coming from? They're coming from other worlds in general. From higher dimensions? Yes, and from much higher dimensions. Leptons are just only manifestation of other particles, let's say muons or the same tachyons. We have reached the definite line. We have to take this line and to destroy it. Like, if you remember, it was in Germany with the wall. Then we'll create this space accessible for everyone. Wow, this is so much of Germany's indeed. And this Germany is the same but not divided by the wall. And this point will be major. To break through forms of limitations, to break through this line. It is the easiest way for me, because I am an dilettante. I have thrown a stone to the swamp, just like that. If someone like PhD, very respected in the academy, did this, he would be pecked to the death. But in this case, someone have thrown a stone, and some reaction wave should be made. The wave has come, and the shore form in the swamp should make some reaction on it. And then, during the attempts to respond to this stone, to this action, changes will break out. I think people who do such complicated things can comprehend this. Yes, they'll comprehend this. They have huge amount of gaps in their comprehension. And now information blocks will build into the gaps. They even didn't know about this. For example, Stephen Hawking, he will start to examine these blocks despite of the degree of their fantastic nature. They're accepted because if one throws them away, all structure will break apart. Right, everything here is just put all together beautifully, and they have just nonsense. Yes, they're purely mathematic forced aspects. For example, the 11th dimension, that's all. Basically, they can't mean anything by that. Right? Nothing specific. It's accepted only because of appropriate beautiful solution. It is just beautiful. It doesn't fit to the 8, to the 13. No, it doesn't fit, but it fits here, and that's all. And now it's fine. Everything is alright. The whole blackboard is covered with the formulas, and the person admires these. But what is hidden behind that? I started to explain that these and that are behind. You guys think now that electric field is not the only movement of the same electrons or leptons. Magnetic field is not what we mean by it. You talk about the spin? Yes, and now joining these details, we'll see how gravity is generated, which we have completed to some graviton, to some kind of non-existent particle. Well, it exists and kind of doesn't exist. Virtually, it exists because the weight is generated. There were no rest mass before, but now there is the rest mass. How is it generated? At the cost of what? Where's that inertia which made field of superluminal expansion to range to a certain limited velocities? And now, knowing this, having asked me some more questions, you'll be able to try to answer these questions. How gravity is generated? When there are several fields, it's also the sum of the fields. During interaction, first fields start to overlay on the other fields, and the other part of fields leaves the synchronization and starts to generate some aspect of distraction, resistance, some tensor. We virtually relate this tensor to tensor fields which appear as the result of it. This tensor is the aspect of gravity generation. It has generated inertia, which prevents further harmonious interaction of fields. When harmony happens, the same boson fields, electronic fields, overlay on each other quite easily. As soon as some particle is generated, then gravity aspect appears. What is the reason for this particle generation? The reason is the generation of resistance, some tensor, an aspect of curving of something, an aspect of distraction of something with respect to something else. The sum of fields appears which are not compatible with what we call electric and magnetic fields, which comprise the general base of our worlds. When this interaction happens on the higher level, the tensor becomes lesser, the gravity becomes weaker. That is, gravity field, which produces the given form of collective intelligence, becomes weaker. I'll give you one example, but they could relate it to mysticism already. The moon has less strong gravity fields than the Earth, but this is not because of the smaller mass. The moon has much higher mental activity with respect to the Earth, and is virtually the generator of the whole set of electromagnetic radiation. Also, the more proper phrase would be not with respect to the Earth, but with respect to some types of the worlds comprising the Earth. In other types of the worlds comprising the collective consciousness of graceless, the entity of the Earth, we have another weight and different types of interaction. All of that is generated by the moon, by the collective intelligence of the moon. The moon has the transmission mechanism from the body of our star to the body of our satellite, and it is artificially materialized, by the way. Well, it's not that way as we can imagine. Kind of, they have formed such a satellite with help of tractors. It has been materialized specifically, and there is not magma inside of the moon, like here on the Earth. Its structure doesn't look like the Earth, it's different completely. And this moon, which exists, its form, and the form of the Earth, graceless, which exists, have completely different mentality levels. Their levels of informative radiations are completely different. We in our worlds are generators of informative radiations. What we feel, what we think about, what we use to feel the world. The moon is the generator of its own electromagnetic radiations and influences both on me, who can think on the much higher levels, and on every murderer, rapist, who think just only the rough ego levels.
И вот этот диапазон, он как раз и создает момент.
And this diapason creates the average general summary influence on the moon field,
У которой во сколько там в 2 раза.
its gravity is 6 times lower than the Earth's.
6 раз. Вот он и создает вот этот вот момент.
This influence creates the difference in gravity.
И когда мы
And when we start to refer to planets on the position of these interactions,
то тогда и
then those calculations made now for detecting planets' masses, their weight, their gravity will be disapproved.
введены в зависимости от массы, не массы, а
Well, then the mass will turn out to be not the mass, but some kind of parameter which defines rotation velocity around the sun, for example. Yes, and that's all. Thus, this mass will be unreal? Yes. I'm sorry, could you tell me about tensor? You say there is no tensor as such, it's just a mathematical notion. Do you mean stress tensor of the field? Yes, exactly. Resistance of the field, an aspect of resistance of the field. How the tensor can be both 12-dimensional and 3rd-dimensional. You may replace tensor with something else. This is not important. Just call it resistant or stress.